Good evening, everybody. It is 7:59 p.m., January 19th, 2022. And tonight we are going to be talking about the housing market. I always like to cover the housing market at least once a week on the stream. I know we like to focus on the stock market, but I think the housing market is important to talk about. And the number one topic of the day is interest rates. Yes, interest rates. So check this out, guys. The average rate on the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage hit 3.7% on Tuesday. This is the highest since early April of 2020 and is now 83 basis points higher than the same time a year ago. And this is pretty much because we've been seeing a major rally across the board, or a major rally in that 10-year Treasury yield. So as we know, bond prices move in an inverse correlation in relation to yields. So when bonds get a bid, we see the yields move in the opposite direction. But when bonds sell off, we see yields again move in the opposite direction. So we'll talk about that and more on the stream tonight. Hey, I see Santa Monica Rodriguez. Good afternoon, Santa Monica Rodriguez. Hey, Felix says, hey, Tom, how are you? What's up, Felix? Marjan Worldwide is here. Says, what's up, bro? Good to see you. Marjan NG says, hello, what is up, NG? We are here in downtown Miami. Chris says, hello, Tom and everybody. Dallas is here. Sally. Dante Rose says, hey, Tom, I can't stay tonight. I'm watching the general election. Ooh. Well, keep us updated about how that goes, Dante Rose. But it's great to see you. And I hope you had a good Wednesday. By the Book says, hi, Tom. Hope you're well tonight. I'm doing really well, by the book. Gerard is here. Says, hi. Jay Gator, D Street Media, the ABX girl from the Bronx, Sally, Jake, Otto, and Horatio Snipes. Hope everybody is doing good. So we saw a pretty broad-based sell-off across the board in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the NASDAQ, and the S&P 500. Everything pretty much lower across the board, which is to be expected. We are in this midterm election cycle, and if data shows anything, it pretty much tells us that Q1 and Q2 are it. But tonight I really wanted to talk about the housing market because there's a few interesting moving parts here that I think we need to pay attention to. And I covered that a little bit in the Behind the Street newsletter that I sent out to everybody last night. Hey, I see Alan Wilson says, good evening, everybody. What is up, Alan? Good to see you. Hope you had a good Wednesday. Thursday tomorrow, almost the end of the week. So there is a basketball game going on here at the FTX Arena in downtown Miami. The Miami Heat are playing, but I'm not sure who the opponent is. So we're going to be walking downtown Miami tonight. But right now we are right outside 1000 Museum, which is the apartment building where David Beckham lives. So I'll show you guys from this angle. Very cool, unique architecture on 1000 Museum. It almost looks like a scorpion to me. And if you watch any of the other YouTube videos on 1000 Museum, I believe there's actually a helicopter pad directly on the top of the building, which is crazy. Hey, Edson is here. Says, how's it going, bro? What is up, Edson? Good to see you. Marjan Worldwide says, Tom, only 500 subscribers from 10K. Hey, awesome, man. That is so cool. Well, thank you, everybody, for subscribing to the channel as we close in on 10,000, which is just insane to me. Hey, Shot by Scott is here. Says, Tom, when are you going to stream from your Skybox suite at the basketball game? What is up, Scott? So, Scott, it was funny. I was in Sunny Isles Beach today for about maybe 15 minutes. I was taking the transfer from the H bus down to the S. I actually had a meeting today in North Beach with a pretty interesting company that sells PPE equipment out of vending machines. So pretty interesting business model, and it's pretty surprising how profitable it is. So Edson says, is it a museum? No, I think that's just what it's called. Here, I'll give you guys another look. Hey, Theresa says, hey, Tom, hope you had a good Wednesday. I did. Hope you had a good one as well. We are here in downtown Miami. Felix says, I'm resting at home, Tom. I got COVID but nothing to worry about. I'm stable. Well, Felix, that's great news, man. Thank God you. So are you asymptomatic, or are you just a little bit sick, but it's mild, or what's going on? Marjan Worldwide says, you down with PPE? Yeah, you know me. So we're going to take a look at the Metro Mover tonight. But before I forget, the link to the article, it's a very helpful article to get everybody to start to understand and pay attention to rates, interest rates, and the bond market a little bit more. Because in my view, the stock market, in my view, is a derivative of the debt market. So in my opinion, the stock market derives its value from the debt market, right? Because as rates go up, borrowing costs get a little bit more expensive, corporate borrowing costs get more expensive, and that can really impact the economy. And as of now, I'll just give you guys a quick idea here. When I bought my property, I'd say about 4 months ago now, which is incredible to me that it's been 4 months since I purchased my property. But my interest rate on my mortgage was just at about 3%, like right on the nose, 3%. And now interest rates on a 30-year mortgage are approaching 4%. I think Tuesday, so yesterday morning, the average price of a 30-year mortgage was around 3.7%. And I think it's probably going to go higher, but one of the interesting things that we've been seeing is even though rates are going up, demand is still there. I mean, if you guys read the Behind the Street newsletter that I posted yesterday, one of my good friends was actually house hunting on Long Island, and he had to wait over 2 hours just to view a house from an open house. 2 hours waiting. Really crazy. Hey, Ken Kramer says the market will rally off of this pullback. Yeah, I think that if the NASDAQ corrects to, the 14,100 level, I think that would be a pretty good buying opportunity, assuming we see some buy-side volume come in. Well, what's up, Ken Kramer? Good to see you. Hey, Lady O is here. Says, hey, Tom, good evening, everybody. We're expecting a little snow tomorrow. Can't wait. Yeah, so Lady O, that's an awesome building. What's up, Edson? Alex says, do you bring your dog with you as you go back and forth from New York City and Miami? So that's a good question. I don't bring my dog with me, mainly because my dog probably more times than not stays in my grandmother's house. I think it's always good to have a dog, in your elderly ages. So my dog does a good job of keeping my grandmother company. Hey, I'm seeing Mark D in the chat. Says, Tom, if you had $1,000, what stock would you invest in? Well, if I only had $1,000 to my name, Mark, I probably wouldn't invest it in any stocks. I'd probably use that quite literally for food, shelter, and water. I think my sort of investment approach is quite different probably from a lot of others. I'm not trying to turn a little bit of money into a lot of money. What I'm trying to do is really, really focus on building a career and building an income. So if I could ratchet up my income incrementally every year and take the difference and then make big concentrated bets in a few names, that's sort of what my investment strategy is. But, if you're young, or even if, you're of working age or whatever it may be, if you just want a dollar cost average into, let's say, an index fund that tracks the S&P 500 or something like that, that is good too. But I would never try to turn, $1,000 into like $1 million. I think that's probably not worth your time. I think you would probably get a better return on your investment by spending your time increasing your income at your current job, or maybe if you have a business you want to start, I would probably double down on that to actually have some sort of an infrastructure that will generate you income, in which case you can invest later. Ken Kramer says it's all about cash flow. What is up, Ken Kramer? So Ken, I was reading an interesting article today in the Wall Street Journal that was sort of touching on a topic that we've been talking about a lot on the stream. and that is large institutional investors on Wall Street. This could be considered anything like a private equity firm, venture capital, and the like, that are coming in here and buying single-family homes. But in this specific case in Cincinnati, a Cincinnati government entity outbid more than a dozen investment firms to buy 194 homes in and around the city. So think about that. Cities, municipalities are sort of trying to preserve, low income and middle income neighborhoods from these big investment firms and real estate investment trusts coming in and scooping up all these properties. Because when a big REIT, real estate investment trust, private equity firm, or even venture capital firm comes in and buy all these single family homes, what they do is they just rent it out to the people in the community, thus driving up the property prices. So I definitely understand what they're trying to do, but I just thought it was an interesting article as a way for governments to combat large institutions from really gentrifying neighborhoods and pushing people out of their neighborhoods they were born and raised in. Hey, Jay says cash flow and passive income. What's up, Jay? Jay, we're looking at the FTX Arena and the Miami Heat are playing, but I'm not sure who they are playing. I just know that there's a game tonight. Hemp Lord says, good evening, everybody. How are you, Hemp Lord? And this is US 1 Biscayne Boulevard here in downtown Miami. Hey, we have Miguel Gonzalez says hello. What's up, Miguel? Judy D, how are you? Lady O says, Tom, you also have a cat too, named Skates. Yeah, so Lady O, it's technically not my cat, but I always leave like food and water outside so the cat can eat it. So in my neighborhood in North Miami Beach, like quite literally, we have hundreds of cats, and I'm not even exaggerating about that. Quite literally, in my neighborhood in North Miami Beach, we have hundreds of stray cats roaming around aimlessly, and I feel bad, so I always leave out food and water for them. Hey, I see Tanya S here, says, hey Tom and everybody, hope you've had a good day. What's up, Tanya? Right back at you. Samantha J says, good evening, Tom and everybody. How are you, Samantha? Lost in the Curves is good for the cities that have the foresight to do that. That is bottom feeding of large corporations, sadly. Yeah, so Lost in the Curve, I definitely see, your side of the argument there. This is probably one of the few topics where I'm undecided, right? Because you know me, I don't really like when governments interfere with free markets, but if we're gonna have something like a big cooperative or let's say a trust that's set up by a city where, they're still purchasing these houses and then leasing, essentially what they do is they buy the houses in bulk and then set up programs that's called a lease to own. So let's say if you're low or middle income, the government will buy these houses and then you will pay the government off for a certain period of time, in which case it's called lease to own, which I think is probably a pretty good idea. It's a sure path to home ownership for people that probably wouldn't be able to afford home ownership any other way. So I think it's a pretty interesting idea. But we've been seeing a lot of this because ever since the 2020 COVID pandemic, a lot of these real estate investment trusts, one of which being Invitation Homes, has been a big culprit in buying single family and renting them out. Hey, I see Kevin Lee here. Says, good evening. It is 8:10 from Atlantic Avenue Barclays Center in Brooklyn. That's awesome. Estelle is here from Australia. Says, hey Tom, how you doing? I'm doing really good, Estelle. I hope you're doing well. Samantha J says, thanks, Meow, for looking out for the strays. No problem. Alan Wilson says, the Heat are playing the Trailblazers tonight. Trailblazers are ahead by a couple points. Stephanie's here, says, good evening. What is up, Stephanie? Sam Pod says, Tom, good evening. Did I just hear you say that you help feed the homeless cats? Thanks to you. Yeah, I leave out food and water for them, but one of the things I've noticed though, Sam, is that when I leave out food and water for the cats, I see every night I see two more cats and then two more cats and then two more cats. I think word's getting around the neighborhood that I'm giving out free food. Hey, XOXX Bob says, good evening, Tom. Nice shot of Zaha Hadid's 1000 Museum Tower, her only skyscraper in the West, and she died in Miami overseeing this project. It's definitely a unique building for sure, Bob. Definitely a unique building, and an expensive one at that. I believe David Beckham and his family has one of the units in that building, if I'm not mistaken. Hey, Fresh Start says, hi, Tom. How are you doing? I'm doing very good. Fresh Start. Hey, we have the one and only British Gray joining us from Tampa, Florida. How you doing, British Gray? We're going to attempt to cross the street here without getting hit, which is always a task in itself in Miami. Estelle says, I just got home from a tropical holiday last night. Very cool. Well, Estelle, in Australia, it's usually quite warm all year round, isn't it? Or am I wrong on that? So this is the main entrance to the Miami Heat Stadium, for those of you who've never seen it, but usually on the stream, we stream outside of here all the time. We see our buddy MKC Update says, Walks in Wall Street, Tom, how much percent car tax in Miami? Car tax? I have no idea, mainly because I don't drive. But that is a good question. I'm not sure. I don't drive a car. I don't drive. Hey, Judy D is here. Kevin Lee, Roy S says, hi, Tom. How are you? I'm doing really good, Roy. I hope you're well. Chris says, how was your day? My day was very good. Very busy, though. Very busy. Jay says, I've been there. I went to a game there 10 years ago. Very cool. Pamela says, another wonderful live stream. Thank you, Tom. Marjan Worldwide says, Tom, I also leave food out for the strays, but I also have a bird feeder. Ooh, maybe I should do that. Just leave out like a bird feeder. Chris Mills says, hi, Tom, from a cold and snowy Ontario, Canada. The ABX girl says, to rent a square foot in Raleigh area is about $2,500, or a single family home in Raleigh is about $2,500 a month, and tech jobs are just not open to many. Yeah, ABX girl, that's probably the going rate for let's say like a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home in North Miami Beach. I could probably rent out the entire house for right around $2,500 to $2,700, which to me is crazy. I think that type of pricing is really, really nuts. But I will like to add, and I'm not sure if I told everybody on the last stream, one of my neighbors came up to me, I think it was about last week, and said that he's going to go away for the entire winter, and he's renting out his entire house to a family from the Northeast on Airbnb for $4,400 a month for 4 months. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that is craziness. But then again, I guess it makes sense, because if you're from the Northeast and you're looking to have, an extended vacation, if you pay $4,400, you have a whole house, you can park your car in the garage, you have transportation, and you have individual rooms for your kids, maybe you're working from home, so I think it makes sense. But people will pay a premium to rent out properties, during the winter in Miami, and then, they have no liability and they just walk away after the winter's over. So I think it makes sense. So we are now looking at the Paramount Tower, which is a very, very luxury apartment building here in downtown Miami. Fresh Start says, Tom, did they fix the railroad crossings? They did fix the railroad crossings. Joseph says, I'd get picked off stepping off the curb. That's the price of paradise. What's up, Joe? Wawan says, good evening. Good evening, Wawan. How are you? Yeah, Bob says, wow. Lost in the Curb says car tax is just regular sales tax of each municipality, I believe. In full transparency, I've never heard of that. Judy D says, love the purple. Running at Altitude says that is about $146 per night less than the Holiday Inn. So maybe it is a deal, but thinking about it, it is a deal. Because think about it, you're not confined to a hotel room. You have a backyard, you have a front yard, maybe you have your rental car. So in some sense, I think it's a pretty good idea. Hey, Ladios' beautiful building. It reminds me of Atlantic City. Ladio, I got to get back to Atlantic City. It's been so long since I've been to Atlantic City. It's been way too long. So if we look to our right, this is the Freedom Tower. Yes, the Freedom Tower in downtown Miami. It's not the most iconic looking building, but I think it's one of my favorites, mainly just due to its rich history and resemblance here. MKC updates his Walks on Wall Street Tom. What kind of public transportation in Miami and how much for a pass per month or day? So what I do is I take the bus. Very rarely do I take the Metro Mover, but if you do take the Metro Mover here, it's at no cost. So you could jump on, you could jump off, you don't have to pay anything, but the bus for a one-way ticket, it's about $2.25. A weekly pass, I believe, is about $40, and then maybe it's about $100 for a monthly pass, but don't quote me on that. But I do know for sure that a one-way bus ticket in Miami is about $2.25, which is very similar to what it would be in New York. So I think public transportation is probably not as broad-based, I would say, in Miami, but it does the job just fine for me. Hey, Out and About is here, is our moderator from Toronto, Canada. Good evening, Out and About. I hope you had a good Wednesday. Bob says, Tom, the Freedom Tower was designed for the Miami News, which was a newspaper that went bankrupt in the late 70s. Wow, I didn't know that. That's awesome. Hey, Rosa says, Miami, go Heat. What's up, Rosa? Fresh Start says, how come the bells were dinging that time? So I think there was a malfunction. There was a major malfunction here. So for people who don't know what we're talking about, right here is an unelevated train track where the trains come across, and one night these bells, or whatever you call it, the railroad crossing, it was actually stuck, and there was traffic stretched down the block around the corner. It was a big mess, but they fixed it. I think for safety reasons, as more people move to Miami, they should probably take these rail cars or these railroad tracks and elevate them. This is exactly the same thing that they did on Long Island. If anybody's familiar with Long Island, New York, there was so many accidental deaths on Long Island from the Long Island Railroad that they actually took the LIRR and elevated it so you wouldn't have any of these crazy incidental deaths, which I think is a good idea overall. Hey, Tiago says, hola. What is up, Tiago? Out and About says, Tom, I am buried in snow. Toronto had a blizzard Sunday night and I had to shovel my way out. Oof. Out and About. Well, supposedly it's supposed to be really, really crazy in New York City on Saturday, and that's exactly the day I'm flying back. Lady O says, Tom, Hard Rock Hotel and Casino is worth checking out if you ever are in Atlantic City. I'll definitely check it out. I'm not a big gambler, but I would definitely love to check it out for sure. 100% we'll have to do that. Chris Mills says it's called Signal Crossing. Hey, Humane Mushing says hello from Colorado. Humane, I would love to take a trip to Colorado, more specifically Denver. Denver, Colorado is a big, big tech town, and we talk about the cybersecurity company Ping Identity, which was taken public actually by Vista Equity Partners. So we talk about that one a lot. Hey, our friend Mount Up 716 says, love Miami, but miss the city walks. We'll be back there very soon on Saturday. Unfortunately, I was actually trying to persuade my clients to reschedule all of my meetings for February, but unfortunately, they want to do it the last week of January. So if anybody wants to read the CNBC article detailing how mortgage rates affect housing prices, if you type !rates in the chat, I programmed the Nightbot to drop the link to the CNBC article, because rates hit an all-time record high ever since dating back to 2020, as mortgage rates for 30-year fixed rate mortgage is right at around 3.7%. Now, here's the hilarious thing. You know, if you think back even 20 years ago, you know, people were saying, wow, I got a sub 8% on my mortgage. But now we're talking about a 4% on a 30-year fixed being expensive for a mortgage. So that's just really tells us what kind of times we are in. Artificially low interest rates, Federal Reserve buying mortgage-backed securities, thus suppressing the prices, or thus suppressing the yields of bonds. So everybody's freaking out. All the financial pundits are freaking out about, oh my gosh, it's going to crash the housing market because we have a 30-year fixed rate mortgage going for 3.7%. But what they don't understand is that we have an actual shortage of single-family homes in America, right? If you just go on Zillow and you look in your local neighborhoods and you go to one of these open houses, 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to be waiting in line even to get into the open house. And I just told the story that one of my really good buddies from Long Island, New York, he went to a couple open houses over the weekend and there was actually a line just to see these houses, very modest houses on Long Island, that go for like $600,000. So it's really, really crazy. I think the market is still going to be white hot, not because of anything else, but I think that just the supply is so low. Hey, Trinidad Music is here. What's up, Trinidad Music? Good to see you. Judy D says, have a good night. Fresh Starts is Tom. How many railroad crossings are on Long Island? I'm not sure the exact amount, but I would assume a ton. So this company right here, if you're looking right here, is called Clear. I'm not sure why they have a Clear here. I thought this was like for the airports. Maybe they have another business segment. Bob says, Tom, many boomers are retiring and downsizing from their homes. Yeah, you're right. And I think one of the major things that's driving demand for single-family housing is the continuation of this work-from-home culture, right? If we just paid attention to the major headlines from some of the major investment banks, they attempted to bring their employees back to the office after Thanksgiving, but what actually wound up happening is the Omicron variant was worse than expected. Everybody was catching COVID, and the likes of Jamie Dimon, which is the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, David Solomon, which runs Goldman Sachs, they just said, everybody, go back to working remote. So all of my friends that I talk to that are in investment banking, they're like, why am I paying $3,000 a month for rent in New York City when I could just move to a suburb, have a home office, I could have a place for the kids to run around if we're just going to be working at home indefinitely. So I think that this work from home culture or this hybrid work environment is going to continue to drive demand for single family homes, despite interest rates going up. Lost in the Curve says, Tom, are buying sight unseen? Oh, it says, Tom, people are buying sight unseen and paying way over asking. Wait for an open house is risky unless it is a shady looking house. Yeah, I mean, I would never participate in anything where I'm paying over asking, getting in bidding wars for anything. And what I especially wouldn't do is I would never waive any inspections or do any contingencies. I think people are getting caught up in FOMO or fear of missing out, and that's how you lose a lot of money, okay? I think the number one piece of advice I could give to everybody, and this is what I told my good friend, I'm like, look, there's literally houses on every street corner in America. If you lose one house because somebody outbid you, there's no big deal. There's literally a house on every street corner in America. So I wouldn't rush and get fear of missing out or FOMO, waive your inspection, and then you overpay for a house that has extremely, extremely bad problems. That's definitely what I would not do. Hey, we got Zilch here. It says, hello from New York. What's up, Zilch? We are outside of the FTX Arena as the Miami Heat are playing. Bob says, Tom, absolutely never skip a house inspection. Vinny Castellano is our good friend joining us from Staten Island. What's up, Vinny? Hope you had a good one. Cosmo says, do you think all office buildings will be like the stock exchange, mostly empty? So here's what I think. I think we're going to see a big trend towards co-working spaces. So one of the companies that I think about a lot is WeWorks. And prior to the major COVID pandemic, WeWorks was an absolute disaster. I mean, a total horror show, WeWorks. But the pandemic is actually playing right into their favor. So if I was a CEO of a startup company, there's no way I'm going to sign an 18-month lease in this environment. What I would do is I would probably sign up for some sort of co-working space where I could do a pay-as-you-go model. That's what I would do. Zilch says, no, I don't live in New York City, but you go back soon. Indeed, I do, Zilch. Trinidad Music, what is going on? Hey, Dan Gilman is here, says, I'm planning to take advantage of the spring market and sell. Realize I don't need $65,000 TV room, cash out and downsize out of town. I think that's a phenomenal idea, Dan. I think you hit the nail right on the head there. If you could sell your house at a premium, downsize, and run away with all the cash, and maybe do some sort of an exchange to avoid the taxes, I think that's an unbelievable thing to do. Hey, we have Sanjeev here. Says, good evening, Tom. What is up, Sanjeev? Hope you're well. The LJ Fighter says, hey, Skate Bro. Late arriving. Good to see you. Vinny Castellano says, did you hear an 11-month-old baby was just shot and killed in the Bronx? Jeez. No, I didn't hear that, Vinny Castellano, but that's horrible. That's horrible. There's been like an unbelievable, unusual crime wave that's been hitting New York City over the past couple weeks. I just heard about there was unfortunately a Deloitte employee. I believe she was a director at Deloitte. Unfortunately got pushed in front of a subway train at Times Square. It's so horrible. I just heard about that not too long ago. It's horrible. It's terrible. Hey, Ron says, hello, Tom. Negative 15 wind chill here right now, and people are out in coats. Yeah, I mean, look at here in Miami, Ron. You know, anytime it gets down to about, let's say 65 degrees, everybody brings out their North Face jackets. Bob says, Tom, COVID has really changed the office market space. You're right. I think it's going to play into the hands of WeWork. ServCorp is another one of these WeWork style office buildings. Hey, War Walker is here, says, evening walks in Wall Street. Did the day treat you well? The day did treat me well. I had a very interesting meeting with a prospective client that actually runs vending machines that dispenses PPE equipment. So that was fun. Daryl says, good evening, Tom, from Chicago, Illinois. Mets fan 1023 says, happy NASDAQ correction territory day. What's up, Mets fan? Yeah, so this is the level I am looking at or gunning for on the NASDAQ. I would hope for a correction right around to that 14,100 level. And I hope that the NASDAQ sells off over the next 2 quarters because, if history shows us anything, during a midterm election cycle year, which we are at right now, the markets don't perform well in Q1 and Q2. But after everything settles down, after all the elections are taking place, and usually if we continue to have a gridlock in the Senate and in the House, stocks usually take off and actually perform quite well in Q3 and Q4. Hey, Lunch Club is here, says hello from upstate New York. What is up, Lunch Club? Thank you for joining on this beautiful Miami night. Out and About says, Tom, shootings are also up here in Toronto, Canada. Yeah, it's really terrible. Norm C says, did you order your free COVID test? I did not, Norm. I did not. Carol H says, good evening from Puerto Rico. What is going on? Carol H, we are outside of the FTX Arena where the Miami Heat are playing the Trailblazers. We're just walking around a little bit tonight and talking about interest rate rises on the 30-year fixed rate mortgage. And also an interesting little bit of information that I was reading about in the Wall Street Journal, which I think ties in to a lot of the topics of conversation we've been having on the streams, and that is government agencies, yes, government entities actually bidding and competing against private equity firms, venture capital firms, and even big real estate investment trusts in buying homes in big bulk orders, and which they're called block orders. Because what we're seeing right now is a lot of private equity, venture capital, and real estate investment trusts buying up many single family homes and renting them out. So what this does is this exacerbates the exhaustion in the single-family housing inventory space. So if you look at all the data, we are at all-time record lows in terms of inventory on the market. And these big private equity firms aren't really doing anything to help the inventory on the market, because they're swooping in there. They can afford and they have the firepower to put large down payments down. Maybe they buy them for cash. So this reduces the amount of supply on the market, and I think that's been, I wouldn't say a big part of the driver of the single family housing market, but it's definitely done something. So what we're seeing now, and especially in Cincinnati, a Cincinnati government entity outbid more than a dozen investment firms to buy 194 homes in and around the city. And this is a move from big municipalities and cities to keep big private investors out of their neighborhoods. And what the city is going to do is develop contingency plans to the vast majority of people that live there and try to do like a lease to own. So they'll lease the property with the contingencies to own it, to help boost ownership and try to break up some of the wealth inequality in the neighborhoods, which I'm still a little bit, I'm not sure if I'm fully bought into that. I think we'll have to see how the data, runs out to see how successful these programs are. Hey Sam Pods, this is Tom. Have you heard anything about the 5G interference? So in my personal view, I don't think there's any conclusive evidence to say that 5G interferes with any sort of aviation. But here's what I will say. I was concerned about the sweeping airline cancellations. Starting today, a bunch of international flights were canceled due to the 5G rollout by Verizon and AT&T. And I think there was so many flight cancellations that Verizon and AT&T actually further delayed their rollouts of 5G, which is kind of crazy, but that's what's going on. Hey, the Mighty Bull is here. Ruben is here, says hello. The LJ Fighter says he barely has been in the office for 3 weeks. Bernard Friedman says, sorry I wasn't here yesterday. No problem, Bernard Friedman. It's good to see you today, and I hope you had a great day. Miss Bash says, do you think vending machines are a good investment, even though more people are working at home, thus affecting commercial real estate? No one is there to buy it. Yeah, so this particular company that I was working with today mainly has their vending machines in the lobbies of residential apartment buildings, and they sell anything from COVID-19 tests to personal protective equipment and the like. And it's a very interesting business model because not only does the vending machine make money from selling these different products, but they also make money from the advertising revenue. Because what they did is they built a little MediaTek module which will continuously run advertising, which is directly pulled from AWS or an Amazon AWS server. So it's a pretty interesting business model. So it's actually, they do the vast majority of their revenue from advertising sales. So a pretty cool business model. Hey, Miss Bash says nice. Cheryl is here, says hello, Tom. Good to see you, Cheryl. We are down here in downtown Miami, overlooking the beautiful buildings down here, 1000 Museum and the like. Kim Grant says, I'm slow to the party. Why would the airlines delay the flights? So they supposedly delayed or canceled a lot of the flights due to the 5G rollout today. Who else we got? Yeah, Lady O says AT&T and Verizon delayed the rollout. You're correct. Thiago is joining us from Brazil. Welcome, everybody from Brazil. Lost in the Curve says Zillow tried to buy and sell, didn't work. Local knowledge and helping your own community. Bob says over 50 major airports across the U.S. have a 2-mile buffer zone for 5G. Interesting. Hey, hello from China. Yeah, so I'll touch on the Zillow debacle for a little bit, but what I think a lot of people don't understand about what happened with Zillow is Zillow was trying to do the iBuying, So essentially what Zillow was doing is they were buying houses in bulk, trying to do minor cosmetic work on these properties and then flip them to potential buyers. But Zillow got in way over their heads and they lost a lot of money. But one of the things that is a big misconception about the whole Zillow thing, and I think we actually did a stream exactly when this happened, a lot of people and even some very notable financial pundits was saying if Zillow has to offload 8,000 single-family homes, well, this is going to crash the real estate market. This is going to crash the single-family housing market, which couldn't be further from the truth. Because here's the big misconception. If Zillow gets in a lot of hot water and has to offload 6,000 to 8,000 homes on the open market, it's not like Zillow is listing these homes individually and holding open houses and selling them to people like you and me. That's not how it works. A company of that size is going to sell these off to big Wall Street firms, private equity firms, real estate investment trusts, and just big investment firms in general in big block orders. And it'll usually probably sell for maybe 60 cents to 80 cents on the dollar. And that's And that's exactly what happened. So if we think about what happened with Zillow, I think they sold a massive block order of 2,000 homes to a big investment management firm in New York City. And the only thing that's going to happen is these big investment firms are just going to turn right around and rent out these houses for cash flow. And the properties are 100% going to cash flow because they're buying these things for 60 cents on the dollar. So I think it's very important to understand how buying and selling works on an institutional level as opposed to a retail level. So we'll take one more look at the front of the arena, and then we'll take in a little bit of a walk around tonight. Hey, Cat B is here. Says, good evening, Tom, mods, and chat. What is up, Cat B? Anonymous Dude 123 says, Tom and all, great to be here. Good to see you, Anonymous Dude. Jerry says, pilots are concerned that 5G will fry avionics of their rig. There's definitely a lot of debate going on, and I'm definitely not an aviation expert. Yep, Larry Astrostar 83 says, and the rich get richer. Bitsmag TV says, good evening, everybody, and Tom. What is up, Bitsmag TV? Lunch Club says, Tom, did you know that stores like Walmart and Target charge their prices dependently where you live, or change their prices depending where you live? Oh yeah, of course. Absolutely. I've noticed that the Walmart here in North Miami Beach is a lot more affordable than the Walmart on Long Island, New York, 100%. Hey, Alejandro says, hey, what's up, my friend? Good to see you, Alejandro. Ahmad says, what time is it there now? I think it's about 8 o'clock at night. Am I correct on that, everybody? At about 8 o'clock? Hey, Cynthia Beal is joining us. What's up, Cynthia? We are outside of the FTX arena tonight. Gabby is joining us. Good to see you, Gabby. Cat B, Anonymous Dude, Bitsmag TV. We have a lot of Chinese viewers. Welcome, everybody from China. Good to see you. Bernard Friedman says, don't people call Zillow an expectation versus reality? Norm C says it is 8:40. Wow, time really flies. We've almost been streaming for an hour. Doesn't really feel like it. I'm very tempted to go to a basketball game and stream from the inside, but then again, I don't want to get in trouble. Ken Kramer says the government buying homes will be another ineffective program. They know nothing about efficiency and value. Yeah, Ken, I think you're right overall. Here's where I'm very, very skeptical. This is where I'm very, very skeptical because I was reading this article in the Wall Street Journal today. And this government-owned agency or this government-owned entity was bidding on single-family homes and actually outbid a lot of large real estate investment trusts on the street for about 197 homes. So here's the caveat. What they're planning on doing is saying, look, a lot of the tenants in these homes live off of either fixed income or they are lower middle class or middle class to begin with. So what we want to do is we want to create programs to where they can lease to buy the homes. On paper, that sounds like a good idea, but I think we need to have all of those terms of those agreements disclosed to the public, because it just sounds too good to be true. And usually anything that's too good to be true, it usually is too good to be true, because the Wall Street Journal report was running the math on this, and they said the reason why these government entities are able to outbid private investors is because they are using the money to buy these homes from bonds, which I think there's some investigation to do there. So if you guys want to Google this, for some reason the Nightbot wouldn't let me put any commands tonight, but if you just want to Google agency outbids investment firms and snapping up Cincinnati homes, it'll bring you directly to the Wall Street Journal article. And I think this is something we really need to pay attention to, because on face value, I'm all on board. I'm all about trying to have people actually have home ownership, because if we turn into a rent, wealth inequality exacerbate. But I digress. Hey, Cat Beast is in Italy. You lease a home for 50 years and then you can own it. It's a program they had. Yeah, so Cat Beast, I think this is probably what they're trying to do, something similar, but I'm not sure about the terms yet. I'm just not sure about the terms. Bernard Friedman says, are you allowed to film inside the arena? I hope people can film inside the arena. That I'm not sure. That I don't know. I wish, because then it'd be cool to show you guys what a Miami Heat game looks like. Hey, Jonathan Francis, good evening, Tom. Did you watch the president speak today? So, Jonathan, I did not watch the president speak today, but I saw some clips of the president's speech on Twitter. And supposedly he said some controversial things, but I think before I comment on it, I need to sit down myself and actually watch the entire speech. Because as you and I know, everybody likes to take things out of context on both the right and the left. So I think I want to give the president a fair shake, sit down and actually listen to what he said, because there was a lot of craziness swarming around on Twitter. Ken Kramer's like, did you watch the president try to speak is more like it. That's funny. Aaron Pearl says, I made it. Good evening, Tom and everybody. Hey, Aaron. Happy Wednesday. We're reporting live from a cold and blustery 65-degree Miami. Jonathan France, I will get back to you on that, but did anybody else in the chat watch the president speak? Was there anything notable? Anything interesting? Hey, Larry says, hey, Tom, Miami is looking beautiful tonight. How are you, Larry? Tejada says, I missed yesterday's stream. Any remarks about Microsoft's acquisition of Activation Blizzard? Yeah, so we briefly touched on that yesterday. I think this is probably going to be one of the most successful acquisitions in history. I think the acquisition of Activation Blizzard is really going to propel Microsoft's push into the metaverse, and I think it's going to be big. I think this is an extremely smart acquisition, and I'm surprised it was even allowed to go through. It was a $70 billion whopper deal, and I think this is going to, over the next 5 to 10 years, bring about some really interesting products and services for the metaverse. So I think it was a fantastic acquisition. Hey, Lunch Club says, Tom, my son streams his basketball and hockey games on Facebook Live, so maybe you could stream too. That's awesome, man. Anonymous Dude says, love video game talk linking through. Jetfighter says, I think you can make a video, but you cannot stream because it'll be as if you're broadcasting the game. That is a good point. This guy almost got hit. It's not good. I think I see Otto here. What's up, Otto? Otto says, I read that issue with 5G and airlines is that there is only 100 megahertz gap between 5G radio spectrum and radio altimeters. So there's something in the industry, if anybody's familiar with like telecom, there's actually something called spectrum auctions, right? So all the major telecommunication companies like Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, they actually bid on this spectrum. So if anybody wants to do more research into that, you could just Google spectrum auctions to understand what that encompasses. And this is why, if anybody was following the merger and acquisition activity that happened a couple years ago with Sprint and T-Mobile, the reason why it was so notable is because Sprint, even though it wasn't such a good cellular provider, it just so happened that they had the most precious mid-band spectrum, which just so happens to be perfect for running very low latency, high throughput applications for 5G. So if you actually really look at the intricacies of that deal of Sprint T-Mobile, it was essentially just T-Mobile buying Sprint for their precious mid-band spectrum. And that's why I think if you had to pick a carrier that's probably going to lead over the next 10 years in terms of 5G capability, it's definitely going to be T-Mobile, because they bought so much rich spectrum that's perfect for 5G from Sprint. Jonathan France, what's going on? Bob says, Tom, tomorrow will be a year since Biden became president. Paul, good to see you. Says, this is just politics, not Miami. See ya. See you, Paul. Have a good night. Cat B says, metaverse is scary. Yeah, I think there's going to be interesting use cases for the metaverse. I'm excited about it. But I think the vast majority of that stuff, right now at least, is all buzzwords and marketing for different companies to market their products. Tahada says, how is soccer in Florida? Is it a growing sport? So I think soccer and football are the two most popular sports here. But I think there's also a lot of football talent that comes out of Miami. Joshua Lopez says, hello, Tom. Hope you're doing well. How are you, Joshua? Warwalker says, Tom, yeah. Warwalker's like, if you walk to the end, you'll see some huge fish. Bernard Friedman says, yes, in the advertisement, T-Mobile says more 5G than any other network. Yeah, that's mainly because they own the vast majority of spectrum in order to deploy that 5G. So you're right. Vaquero says, hi, Tom, I hope everything is okay. What about the $600 million loss? Sorry, I lost your comment. Presented by United. I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't really pay attention. I would never make an investment in any of the airline stocks. There's just really no innovation and no upside there, in my view. Yes, the Brazil flag. There's a big Brazilian culture here in Miami. This is cool right here. Jonathan Francis, Tom, 67% of Americans support a bill to ban stock trading by members of Congress, but Pelosi won't bring it to vote. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that Congress members should still be able to have access to equity capital markets, but I think that they should only be able to do that in the form of an index, so an index fund. I don't think that they should be able to trade individual names. But there's actually a list of all the congressmen and congresswomen who have outperformed the S&P 500. And it wasn't just Nancy Pelosi. I mean, I think at the top of the list were some Republicans. If you look on my Twitter, if anybody wants to see the full scope of every single congressman or a congresswoman who outperformed the S&P 500 and is probably guilty of insider trading, just check my Twitter. Hey, Trinidad Music, good to see you. Michael says, I live in Miami and the price of living here is getting ridiculous. Any suggestions on how to become a millionaire? Well, I do have to say, Michael, I agree with you that the prices are pretty egregious here. It's almost like getting as bad as New York. Any advice on that? I would just say you really have to focus on your career, right? Whatever sort of job you have now, I would focus on getting really good at that, building your skills so you can then exchange those skills in the open market for hopefully a lot of currency. Seven says doctors own stock in pharmaceutical companies, same difference? I don't really think so. But I respect that opinion. Trinidad Music says likewise. Always good to see you, Trinidad. Sierra C says there's just something beautiful at the ocean at night. Yeah, so check out all of these boats here at the marina overlooking Miami. Hey, Devon Avery is joining us. Says good evening, Tom. Hey, Devon. Jamie the Rooster says you need to be able to code these days, bruh. Yeah, I think excuse me. Yeah, I think learning to code is definitely useful. It just depends on sort of what types of applications you want to build. Do you want to be a front-end developer? Do you want to be a back-end developer? So I think by answering that question, you'll probably understand what languages you should learn. Maybe you want to learn Java, JavaScript, HTML, Node, C#, Python. It just really depends. Hey, Warwalker, thank you so much for the $10 donation. Warwalker says, here's a little pocket change for the bus fare back to the burbs. Hey, Warwalker, I appreciate you very much. And thank you so much for supporting the channel. We appreciate Warwalker very much. Lost in the Curve says, Tom, the Cincinnati deal is a little complex, but a Cincinnati Dev Corp bought the property from a failing, yes, you're right, yes. Ownership, it sounds like a very good deal for the citizens. So Lost in the Curve, it does. At face value, it looks like a really, really good deal. But the only thing that I'm a little bit wary about is it mentioned these schemes to lease to own, which I'm not against lease to own at all, but usually there's a lot of fine print in that. So if they do the right thing by the citizens, then I think it's going to be a really good thing. Because the number one thing that I'm predicting in terms of the housing market is America is going to be turned into a renter nation, where the vast majority of the homes and the real estate are owned by large institutional investors, which is not good, because that means all the regular citizens will be priced out of the market and unable to afford down payments for homes and things like that. So hopefully this will be able to make it so that the citizens of Cincinnati, or this particular town in Cincinnati, will be able to have a pathway to home ownership. Because if we look at the data of the vast majority of millionaires in America, the number one thing that makes millionaires in America millionaires is their home equity, home ownership. So I think owning real estate is a very, very important piece of the puzzle to building wealth long term. As we look at the Ferris wheel here, so everybody, we will have to turn this stream into a Twitch stream because the gimbal died. I think the battery is waning on my gimbal. But I think this is one of my favorite spots in Miami, because you could see all of downtown Miami from here. Beautiful. Yeah, Lady O says, that sounds scary, Tom. The LJ Fighters is Ferris wheel tonight. I don't think I could handle going up to those heights, to be honest. I don't think I would do too well.